Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. We will start out with our severe thunderstorm outlooks today with a look at what happened over the last 24 hours. And we had a pretty substantial supercell pass from northwestern Oklahoma to just south of Wichita, with some wind gusts of 58 miles per hour and numerous tornado reports and hail up to 1 inch with that storm. That was later in the evening. And then we had a lot of hail reports, some of them up to 2 inches. Might have been the same supercell. I didn't check the radar loop. We also had another tornado report there tucked away in the panhandle of Texas. Is that a prelude to what will happen today? Could be. I mean, the overall setup hasn't changed a whole lot. Here's the morning satellite loop. I've got it on IR, so we're sensing cloud tops via temperature. And we're just looking at very active weather moving up through Illinois and Iowa at this time. But this is the setup region right in here today. And that has been known now for several days. A lot of lead time on this. We take a look at the 500 millibar analysis. We have this sharp trough right here out west, right around the Four Corners area. And we have abundant flow. Now, this particular trough is maybe a little bit positively tilted or maybe just kind of neutral. I mean, if it were positively tilted, it would be like that. Now, typically in those situations, you get lines of thunderstorms. What you're missing in that situation is deep low pressure development, which is more favorable for tornadoes. So that's good news. Not that you can't get them, certainly, and there is a risk out there for sure. But if this were a negatively tilted trough like this, we'd be looking at a more dynamic situation. Let's just take a look at what the Storm Prediction Center has outlined for us today on Friday. This is the morning update, and it hasn't changed a whole lot since yesterday. We still have a level 3 out of 5 enhanced severe weather risk from southern Iowa straight down into eastern Oklahoma. So the major cities included in that highest area are Kansas City, Springfield, where I'm broadcasting from, Tulsa, and Wichita is just right around here, so right on the edge, actually. And then it decreases as you go westward. The dry line will set up somewhere in here. We've got a frontal system through here, so it's a complicated forecast. But the severe weather threat actually reaches all the way up into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and even the marginal risk goes up into Michigan. So let's look at that tornado overlaid on top of that. So we still have a 10% category right here. And this was modified yesterday, and we're sticking to it here. So this runs from Springfield southwestward to just north of Dallas. And that would include Fort Smith, areas along I-40, almost Tulsa, not quite. Certainly does include southwest Missouri, and again stops just short of Springfield. And for folks listening to me, and that's the majority of you, I will produce a heads-up video once the update to this outlook comes out right around 11:30 or so. But I did want to show you, and this is one of the first tip-offs yesterday that something might be happening, is that Nadocast, which is a learning machine model, put this area here under a 5% tornado risk yesterday afternoon, actually late morning, from the 12Z data, the 6 a.m. data, and it's sticking with that here. So there's it's a bimodal kind of setup, maybe even a trimodal, because this right here is associated with the strongest winds aloft ejecting this way. This is kind of a combination of either dry line activity that will form here and move into this area, or a separate cluster of thunderstorms. And I'll show you some radar images here in a second. CSU shows the tornado risk in a broad brush from Iowa down into the heart of Kansas and Oklahoma. And then that secondary area again is showing up there close to northwest Arkansas, the highest hail risk. And it's pretty substantial. 45% is the highest there, right around Lincoln, Nebraska, with 30% probabilities from Des Moines down to Oklahoma City, right through Kansas. Wind probability is not as high, but if there were any, I think they would be with this northern cluster of storms that's anticipated. So let's take a look at that. So again, this is one model, one run. This is the HRRR simulated radar. This is what it is saying things will look like at 3. So we have this interesting cluster of storms, and this shows up a lot when we have a really broad jet stream flow, where you have little tiny features at work here. And this can either aid or discourage severe weather, depending on exactly when and how it develops. So not much here at 3, but we go to 6 p.m. This has been known. This is connected with the stronger winds aloft. If you see these little snail trails here like that one, that's just indicating a supercell. So there are quite a few probably in there that even the radar is not indicating. This is the curiosity to me, and the Storm Prediction Center agrees. Is this going to be severe? If this isn't going to be severe, and a lot of the parameters are not lining up very well for that, I mean, not widespread severe, not extremely tornadic, then that's actually good, of course, and I can see how it may not be. And it would have one effect. It would stabilize the atmosphere, at least temporarily. And then thunderstorms that are forming out here would be more like dry line storms. And if we advance this, you'll see that that first cluster kind of dissipates a little bit. There certainly aren't any indications of supercells, but then some of these back here are looking a little heftier. But again, would they be moving into modified air cooled by this and maybe not perform very well, which would be good news. It means that severe weather threat would be less. Remember, the 10% area for tornadoes was drawn like that. So I think, even though they're not discounting this area, I think the outlook is mainly made for these here. And you'll notice that these storms are quite active up here, with several supercells indicated, and there's a frontal system moving through here. And in fact, if we advance to midnight, the fronts here, we have isolated storms here. Those still could be good by midnight across southwest Missouri, given maybe enough time for the atmosphere to recover. And since it's again, kind of a broad southwesterly flow of jet stream winds, and there's still southerly winds at the surface. Even by midnight, it doesn't mean that things are necessarily dying down. So we're going to keep an eye on that and watch it through the morning. So let me go ahead now to Saturday, tomorrow. This severe weather threat shifts to the northeast and to the south. So we have a level 2 in Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, most of West Virginia, and also down in southern Arkansas, the northern half of Louisiana, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston, all included in that for tomorrow. There is a tornado risk with that, but more subdued. It's only a 2% risk, largely in areas from Tennessee back to Louisiana and up around those same areas around Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. If we look at CSU's idea of that, it matches very closely on the tornadoes. The highest wind threat appears to be with thunderstorm lines that will be moving through New York and parts of Pennsylvania. Now, it's quiet mostly after Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, not really registering too much. Now, I did want to look to Tuesday because the main jet stream flow is here, but I've been watching this cutoff low, and everybody has, for days to see what it's going to do. Well, it finally decides to eject Monday night and Tuesday. So this is, generally speaking, a pretty favorable severe weather area, and the SPC tweaked it a little bit. It is more elongated now, whereas the last 2 days it was shaped more like this. Now it's more elongated. That could mean more squall line type activity and less of a tornadic threat. But again, it's way too many days to be that kind of detail oriented on that. I do want to show you CSU's learning model on that, and it does show a little epicenter of severe weather possibilities there in northwest Arkansas. That compared to the SPC Outlook. And they introduced a new one for Wednesday, and that's this new system sagging southward. So from Little Rock down to around Houston, all the areas in between could see a little bit of severe weather on Wednesday. Again, the way they do it this far out is they either issue a 15 or a 30% chance of any severe weather within a 25-mile radius. And we'll also show you what CSU shows for that. It's extending it, as it typically does, much more to the north than the SPC usually does. And if we just sum up the next week, the next 7 days of supercell composite probabilities, it looks like this. So that pretty much sums up what I just showed you, showing up very active. Still, if we go 2 weeks ahead, quiet, and then even 3 weeks ahead, a little quiet and subdued down to the south. But I have a feeling that I think this will come to life again, given a few more days of analysis. Of course, at week 3, we don't expect a lot of fantastic detail, only trends. So we'll keep that updated as well.